Welcome to Star of the West Milling Company, founded as a simple flour mill in 1870 and incorporated in 1929. Since then, we've expanded our operating network to include grain elevators, agronomy retail outlets, edible dry bean processing plants, and flour mills. Worker safety is paramount at Star of the West. We are committed to providing a safe work environment for everyone. Our goal is to proactively improve workplace safety by identifying, eliminating, and reducing hazards. This video provides a general overview of the company's contractor safety requirements. In addition, the company's contractor safety checklist will be used to cover specific project and facility requirements. Failure to abide by the company's safety requirements may result in removal from company property and project termination. The contractor and a company representative will complete a job hazard analysis for each project. The purpose of the hazard analysis is to evaluate the project in order to identify, eliminate, or control hazards and ensure everyone's safety. All work-related injuries, near-miss events, property damage, and worksite hazards are to be reported immediately to a company representative. Injury reports must be filled out within the same shift the injury occurred. All incidents will be analyzed and timely corrective actions will be implemented. Since personal protective equipment provides a barrier between the worker and hazards such as falling objects, flying particles, hazardous chemicals, and respiratory hazards, personal protective equipment is required in all operating areas. Minimum personal protective equipment requirements include hard hats, appropriate eye protection, and proper footwear. Depending on the task, additional personal protective equipment may be required. This may include hearing protection, respiratory protection, protective clothing, fall protection, and hand protection. Hearing protection used in flour mills must be metal detectable. For your safety, all contractors are required to wear long pants and sleeved shirts. Drugs, alcohol, and weapons of any kind are not permitted on company property. Any person under the influence of drugs or alcohol or in possession of a weapon will be removed immediately from company property. All job sites must remain clean and organized at all times. Aisles and emergency equipment must always be clear and accessible. All waste generated during the project will be removed on a routine basis. Please direct all questions regarding waste disposal to your assigned company representative. The company will notify contractors of the location of asbestos-containing materials. Notify your assigned company representative if asbestos-containing materials are disturbed in any manner. Any contractor performing asbestos abatement activities must do so in compliance with local, state, and federal laws. This includes the use of proper personal protective equipment, decontamination, and disposal of all asbestos-containing or contaminated materials. The company's Hazard Communications Program follows the requirements established by the Globally Harmonized System, referred to as GHS. The program ensures that chemical hazards, used, stored, or handled by the company, are evaluated and information on chemical hazards is communicated to contractors. All company locations maintain a chemical inventory list of all hazardous chemicals that are handled or stored at each facility. Safety data sheets are also available for all hazardous chemicals on site. Contractors will notify the company prior to bringing hazardous chemicals onto any site. Contractors must also provide safety data sheets upon request. All chemicals entering the facility must have a legible label. Secondary use containers must be labeled with the name of the chemical and any associated hazard warnings. Examples of secondary use containers include spray bottles, plastic containers, and temporary chemical storage containers. The company uses chlorine in its flour production process. Accidental release of chlorine may pose an inhalation hazard. Facilities are equipped with air monitoring equipment and emergency shutoff capabilities. Your assigned company representative will cover specific evacuation procedures for a chlorine release. The company's lockout-tagout procedure outlines the practices and procedures for safeguarding workers from the unexpected startup of machinery and equipment and the release of hazardous energy during servicing or maintenance activities. Contractors performing servicing, maintenance, or other related activities must properly lock out and tag out all applicable equipment. Licensed electrical contractors will perform all electrical work. An arc flash analysis has been performed at all company locations. Contractors performing work involving live electrical conductors will comply with the company's arc flash label to include the use of proper arc flash personal protective equipment. Contractors entering permit-required confined spaces, including grain storage bins, silos, tanks, and hoppers, must follow all applicable OSHA and company requirements. All permit-required confined spaces are labeled with warning signage. Proper training is required before contractor employees are allowed to enter permit-required confined spaces. In addition, confined space entry permits will be completed prior to confined space entry. Permits ensure all necessary safety precautions are in place prior to and during entry. Precautions include atmospheric monitoring, isolation of hazards including moving equipment and inflow systems, the use of an attendant, the use of specialized equipment including retrieval systems, personal protective equipment, and entry communications. Entry into confined spaces such as grain bins, silos, or tanks may pose additional hazards to entrants. These hazards include engulfment or entrapment in grain. Due to the severe nature of these hazards, special precautions are required. Contractors entering grain storage, bins, silos, or tanks must never walk on grain to make it flow within or out of the structure. Never stand on moving grain, such as grain flowing toward a reclaim auger or conveyor. Always wear a body harness attached to a secured lifeline when entering a grain bin or silo from a level at or above the level of the grain products, or when standing in stored grain at any depth, both of which pose serious engulfment hazards. Never enter grain bins or silos underneath bridging conditions or where the buildup of grain products on the sides of the space could fall and bury employees. Since the handling of grains such as wheat, corn, and beans can generate combustible dust, the company has implemented housekeeping, hot work, and preventative maintenance programs to prevent combustible dust explosions and flash fires. The company's housekeeping program requires each facility to implement an inspection and cleaning process for addressing combustible dust accumulations. The program requires contractors to notify a company representative prior to cleaning with compressed air. The company's fire prevention program requires contractors to complete a hot work permit for any work using open flames or sources of heat that could ignite materials in the work area. Examples of hot work include welding, oxyacetylene cutting, and grinding of ferrous materials. The hot work permit specifies the use of safety precautions that include the use of fire extinguishers, a fire watch, and inspection of the hot work area after the work has been completed. No smoking is allowed on company property. Contractors working at heights must be protected from free-falling 6 feet or more. This includes any situation where a worker is within 6 feet of a leading edge. Fall protection may utilize railings and barriers to prevent falls. When railings and barriers are not feasible, the use of fall arrest or fall restraint systems is mandatory. Personal fall arrest systems must prevent a free fall from 6 feet or contact with a lower level. A personal fall arrest system utilizes a full body harness, a connector or lanyard, and an anchorage point capable of withstanding the forces associated with a fall. A restraint system is a tie-off system restraining an employee from falling. A restraint system prevents a person's center of gravity from going over the leading edge. A competent person must erect and dismantle all scaffolding. Daily inspection is mandatory for all scaffolding in use. Scaffolding that fails to pass inspection will not be used. All scaffolding must be level, plumb, and adequately secured. Fall protection is required when persons are working on scaffolding deck height exceeding 10 feet. Fall protection may include the use of a personal fall arrest system or guardrail systems. The company's ladder safety procedure establishes the requirements for design, inspection, and use of both fixed and portable ladders. When using a fixed ladder, always keep hands free, maintaining 3 points of contact at all times. 3-point contact means maintaining either 2 hands and 1 foot or 2 feet and 1 hand in contact with the ladder. Never carry radios, tools, or other objects in your hands when climbing a fixed ladder. Periodically, portable ladders will be used. Portable ladders must be inspected prior to use and must be in acceptable condition. Never use portable aluminum ladders around live electrical conductors such as overhead power lines. Only authorized persons are permitted to use caged or continuous belt MANLIFTS. Authorization means training specific to the type of MANLIFT being used. Prior to trenching and excavating, all underground utilities must be identified. Excavations exceeding 5 foot in depth will be benched, shored, or sloped based on the type of soil. A guardrail, barrier, or properly rated cover must always protect excavations exceeding 6 feet in depth. Only certified operators will operate cranes, and all persons involved in rigging and signaling activities must be qualified. Cranes will not be operated around overhead electrical power lines unless de-energized or properly insulated. The swing radius of the crane must be properly demarcated to keep persons from accessing areas beneath crane work. Areas beneath crane work must be demarcated or cordoned off to prevent access. Cranes will be inspected daily. Bloodborne pathogens are defined as pathogenic microorganisms that are transmitted via human blood that can cause disease in humans. Bloodborne pathogens can transmit diseases such as hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV. The company's Bloodborne Pathogens Exposure Program establishes precautions for preventing exposure to bloodborne pathogens when cleaning up blood or bodily fluids or responding to an injury involving blood or bodily fluids. Only trained and authorized employees will perform cleanup activities involving blood or bodily fluids and provide first aid. Should you witness blood or bodily fluids in your work area, notify a company representative immediately. Rail operations are present in many of our facilities. Since railcar movement can pose significant risk to contractors working within close proximity to rail operations, the following rail safety guidelines apply to all contractors. Never cross tracks at switch points. Never cross under or between rail cars. When crossing between uncoupled rail cars, ensure at least 100 feet of clearance. When crossing around the end of a rail car, maintain at least 50 feet of clearance. Never walk between the rails. Always look in both directions before crossing tracks on foot or in a vehicle. Never park vehicles or store materials within 6 feet of the rails. Never remove blue flags or derails. Work areas on or adjacent to active rail tracks will be properly isolated with a blue flag and a derail. Since vehicle traffic is frequently present in work areas, use caution when crossing roadways, aisles, or areas with blind corners. When work is performed in areas where vehicle traffic is present, the area must be cordoned off or otherwise marked. Remember, even though the vehicle may be visible to you, you may not be visible to the vehicle operator. Each facility provides detailed information and procedures for responding to fires, severe weather, chemical spills, or releases. Should evacuation be necessary, move to the designated evacuation point and remain there until dismissed by a company representative. A company representative will provide additional information on the evacuation routes and assembly areas specific to each company location. Facility security and product safety are top priorities. Consequently, we ask that contractors report any suspicious activity, theft, or vandalism immediately to a company representative. In order to secure our facilities, we require the following. All doors must be secured at all times. Never prop doors in an open position. Only one person at a time may enter controlled access doors. Unauthorized persons are not permitted in the facility without a company escort. We must also ensure that we protect products from intentional and unintentional contamination. Our food processing facilities operate under strict food safety and quality management systems. Hair and beard nets are required in operating areas. Shirts must not have buttons or anything stored in pockets that could fall into the product stream. The wearing of jewelry is prohibited. Food and drink consumption is not permitted in operating areas. Pathogens can cause foodborne illness. Certain pathogens can be transmitted by food contaminated by an infected person. As such, if you have contact with someone with a communicable disease or display symptoms of a communicable disease, please notify your supervisor and company representative immediately. Since proper hygiene is one of the most effective methods to avoid spreading germs, contractors are required to wash hands when entering the production area and when they become soiled. Color-coded tools, utensils, and containers are used in flour mills. Your company representative will cover the color coding system and additional food safety requirements in greater detail. Star of the West Milling Company is committed to the safety of all employees and contractors. Strict adherence to all program requirements will help ensure contractor safety while working at company locations. Please direct all questions regarding the company's safety requirements to your assigned company representative. We look forward to working with your company.